Well, Cowboy Harry would have been fitting for the last pod because you came in guns a-blazing on the last
Jesus.
one.
Everybody's got GERD from that.
Yeah, you got any blowback from that?
No.
No,
Yeah, I didn't promote it, so um, just wanted to let it just sit there and marinate.
let it simmer.
Let
Yeah,
it ferment.
just let it simmer a little bit. I have no
Dema.
anyway. Welcome to Beer Net Radio, folks. This is our Wednesday warehouse segment where we go over the week's news. Today, I'm joined by Jen Litz Kirk. Give me a whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.
That's my girl. And then we got Jordan Driggers also on the line. And guys, we had Jordan, just what you said would happen. Fucking happen.
Yeah.
Last week on the podcast, I said that those first 2 weeks in April were so bad for the beer industry. I was wondering if there had to have been something other than just people not drinking beer, like the eclipse and the Easter timing and
Yeah.
all that. And that's kind of what Gavin said on Molson Coors' conference call. He was like, there was just a lot of noise. We don't need to panic yet, because basically, their brands went south so fast, everybody kind of got alarmed, including us, right? And but the industry was really soft. So what do you guys make of Molson Coors' first quarter earnings?
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of have to take it. There are some mixed signals, right? So, first of all, April BPI was really high, right? It was the
Right.
best composite trend we've seen since like 2021. Premium lights were super high, premium regulars, they were like 20 points over the year ago. But then, of course, yeah, you see this in the scans, this downturn in April and the noise. And with Gavin on the call, I was kind of surprised that he kind of refused to quantify it, because so many analysts wanted him to quantify, well, like, what's happening? Like, is this sticky? Because, Molson Coors does like to control the message mouse, probably more so than some of their competitors. So, but then you look at the and make no mistake, the quarter was good. I mean, they did almost 6% depletion growth in the U.S., and of course they overshipped ahead of summer and because of the Fort Worth strike. But then Gavin said, like, well, and the shelf resets, which we've been a huge beneficiary of, you won't see those complete until July, right? And so now there are all these caveats where before it was, oh no, we're still, even though they say, they're maintaining guidance and they still think that they're, structurally ahead, but there is all this noise. So, and then contrast that with Boston earnings last week. And Boston seemed to have had such a great quarter, right? Their depletions were flat, which they haven't been in years. But then the longer people read the release and listened to the call, they realized, oh, wait, but then the year-to-date trend, which added 2 or 3 more weeks, their depletions were down 2% because they had the benefit of the shifted Easter in Q1, right? And so, but I just think, I don't know. Jordan, I'm curious about your thoughts, because at this point, again, there is a lot of noise and you have a great BPI, you have like better Boston trends, but then you really look at them and you see that Easter timing affected that too. And then Molson Coors maybe kind of running a little bit scared.
Yeah.
So,
Everyone was trying to figure out about April, and I think they were trying to obtain clarity, but at the same time, it seemed like they were trying to like force an admission out of
right.
Gavin to say like, okay, comps are tough.
Yeah.
And they pointed to the BPI. They asked about weather, and he said, we're not seeing any impact from weather at all. And so I think everyone was just like, okay, well, what is it? And there wasn't a lot he said outside of Easter, dislocation from Bud Light. And I think that just kind of made everybody like push a little further on, hey, just tell us if the comps are too tough.
Yeah.
And I
Just admit the comps.
and I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, let's face it. I don't think there was a whole lot of people that expected Molson Coors
Right.
to cycle the comps, outside of Molson Coors. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, I don't think anybody would have dinged them if they would have acknowledged months ago, hey, it's going to be an uphill battle, and not say that we can't do it, not say, we're confident that we're going to do it, but it's going to be a challenging few months facing these comps.
You think? I mean, I, I think you're right, Jordan. That I think they're still saying that they're going to have what, low mid single digit growth for the year, which I think is going to be a really tall order given what we're looking at now. Nobody's bringing up the eclipse. I just teed up a perfect excuse there. Nobody's grabbing hold of it. I guess.
Yeah. It was the lunar pull.
Yeah, the
or
lunar
push.
pull. Now, I
The,
have a question about the BPI. The question that Lester asked distributors is, are you going to buy, are you going to buy more or less of this
Or the
product?
same.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a future.
Yeah.
It's a future. And I'm just wondering if distributors like, yeah, we're buying more because one of our breweries is on strike and we don't know when we can get
Right.
supply.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. But you would think they would already be pretty loaded at this point, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's particularly going to be tough when you have Simply Spiked just not cycling the way that you would expect with the new flavor. That's a big portion of their gains last year that aren't going
Yeah,
to be there. Just forget about Miller Lite, Coors Light, and then Banquet. Just their RTDs are kind of coming up against pretty good comps too, right?
yeah. No one has to rely on premium lights more than Molson Coors. I mean, even AB admitted before this fiasco that Mick Ultra is going to be our biggest brand.
Yeah.
And Miller Coors, Molson Coors doesn't have a Mick Ultra in their back pocket. So
Coors
I,
Banquet.
Yeah,
th-
it is Coors Banquet. It
it's
is.
it's
Kind
a
of is.
great brand,
Yeah.
but it's not,
As
Mick
big.
Ultra.
Yeah.
And I don't know what will happen over summer, but it does seem like if things stick to the way they are, it'll be tough for them to continue selling premium lights as, a category that's only being dragged down by one player. Because if you gained all these new consumers, you gained this shelf space, and you're still kind of having trouble retaining after you had a phenomenal year, people are going to say, okay, well, maybe premium lights are who we who we thought they were, and
The,
it's
the,
just
the
a
way of the
declining segment.
past.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Modelo and Oro and Ultra. I mean, premium lights is kind of a misnomer of a category even nowadays because you really need to include Oro and Michelob Ultra in
Sure.
premium lights. I mean, they compete directly against each other if the price isn't exactly the same. The other thing is wondering what AB is going to do
Mhm.
when they release their quarter. I mean, I think I know. I would say one of the things that I've had a couple of calls with investors, and one of the narratives that I've kind of hit upon is that the reason that AB is hammering their distributors on call ratios so hard is because they want to mitigate the shelf losses that they're going to expect to have and the shelf resets that are coming, that have already got done and are coming. So because what happens when you reduce shelf space? You lose store inventory, and what happens then? Well, you get more out of stocks, and then you just exacerbate. It's a negative flywheel, and so they want to make sure that they don't have any out of stocks. And the only way to do that is to have their distributors in the stores all the time, every day, all day long.
Mhm.
And you know,
Yeah.
that's just. I mean, I don't have. It's not like they've told me that or anything, but it just seems reasonable of why this is all going down at the same time.
Yeah. But and as the opposite of, Molson Coors was the beneficiary of the AB fallout. And now, of course, it's flipping. And so AB is the beneficiary of the comps, right? And so to your point of what's going to happen next week, in this latest 421 Circana data, they pointed out that the AB portfolio is growing volume, share, and dollar sales in a very specific set of channels, multi-outlet, not convenience, in 3/4 of the states. so,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
cherry pick that
excluding
garden a little bit.
Montana.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. In the Dakotas. But
or something. Yeah, it's always weird how they cut up the data.
but they did say Mick Ultra's share of category is at an all-time high in 2024, right? And it's, again, now that we're cycling these comps, it's the second fastest share gaining brand in the industry in the most recent 1 and 4 week period. So yeah, I think things are looking great for Mick Ultra this year. But I do suspect on the call next week, it's going to be the same insofar as it's going to be like, yeah, Q1 wasn't great, but what's ahead? Let's talk about April. Let's talk about, and that's what they're going to be judged on, right?
yeah.
Right.
It'll be the opposite.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Michelle we'll probably have a whole different, characterization of what's happening in April, because that is something that I felt like I thought the analysts were going to ask Gavin, if the industry is having such a tough time, why is ABI
Doing
why
better.
why are ABI's trends improving and Constellation is still steady growth?
Yeah.
It seems like it's a tough time for a certain set of suppliers that are going up against a certain set of circumstances. And then Harry, when you were talking about the distributors being next to the retailers all the time, I feel like the story will flip from what was happening last year too. I mean, I know self sets are done, but if they're talking to retailers and they're just looking at year over year comparisons, it'll be like, hey, look at what AB's brands are doing, and look at what Molson Coors is doing. Look at what Yingling's doing. And
Right.
if they're not talking about those 2 year stacks like we were talking about,
Right. And share.
yeah, then it can be a easy kind of sell to say, well, look who's up and look who's down. So
Right. And the other thing is that there's some I get the sense there's some leftover sympathy for AB among category leaders at the chain stores. No, I mean, who won Convenience Store Supplier of the Year again for the seventh year in a row? AB.
yeah.
It's
weird.
It's weird, yeah. So I mean, they still have a lot of stroke with chains. I would predict that probably AB, you're right, Jordan. AB will gain some of that shelf space back in the fall. But from my perspective, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think that marginal shelf space is that important, except for store inventory. But as far as like facings and billboard effect and all of that, with established brands like these, it really doesn't matter. If it's a new to world brand, sure, you want it to billboard on the shelf. But I mean, having 4 packs of aluminum bottles on the shelf is not going to hurt AB's share.
Right.
Yeah.
Big beer brands like that are sold on ad and on promo, on display. And so that's going to be the real metric, which Circana and Nielsen do track, is who's going to get the most deals during the holidays. And I would submit that AB's will get just as a swing at the bat as any others for that space, end cap space and rollers, TPRs, whatever you want to call it. We got biscuit. We got all kinds of names, don't we? Wake up. She's always falling asleep during the podcast. This is your big time to shine. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you, Biscuit. That's what they're all saying out here.
Yeah.
Nobody wants you. Nobody likes you. It's true. Right?
Oh,
haven't y'all been hearing that out there?
No,
that's
not true. Only from you.
Yeah, only from you.
Well, no, to the point about shelf resets and stuff, Ball also reported, I think, late last week, and Dan Fisher, the CEO, could not call out beer softness enough on the call. He was no, beer softness. Well, yeah, 2 billion units. Bud Light displaced like 2 billion units for them, but I think it sounded like they picked that up. But this is probably the most interesting thing I think he said, answering a question about the U.S. He said, even with shelf resets, I think the beer category is down. So I think it's less about the category reset and more about beer and how they get on with promotional activity in the peak season. To your point, Harry, right? So
yeah, it's going to be an important summer. You've heard me. I'm pretty bullish. I'm not even sure why.
It's just a feeling you have.
Yeah, it is. It's just a feeling. And I don't know why, but I feel like it's going to be a good summer for beer.
Yeah. I don't know.
But I don't know.
If AB can get back to growth, then I think things will even back out and we'll probably be up about where we were last year. It'll just be different players. I mean, because Busch Light, I'm assuming, the Busch brand fam is almost up double digits. So that's back. Michelob Ultra's back growing mid-singles. And those are brands that we kept thinking last year, okay, those brands will recover fast and they'll get back to growth. And they never really did. So they have a lot of easy comps and they're already cycling them pretty well. So I think AB could get back to growth soon, and that would help prop everything up.
So anything else Has Coke released anything yet?
Yeah, Coke reported yesterday and said precious little about Bevalc, but it was interesting. The one time they did mention Jack and Coke was when a caller was asking about innovation and like how they track it, right? What benchmarks they have, that sort of thing. And James Quincy said, we have a clear set of metrics, whether it's still growing on the fifth quarter after its launch. So is it cycling itself and continuing to accelerate? Now, of course, remember Red Tree told us that they were very siphoned off of, not, I don't know if siphoned was the word, but very like kind of cordoned off of main Coke. But anyway, Jack and Coke is coming up on that fifth quarter. So we'll see.
Yeah. And there's other brands that have been around longer than that
Topo
aren't growing.
Mm-hmm.
And
but then you wonder what that means, right? Because it's not just, well, we asked about this, right? And I forget what they said, but like, can Coke just DQ that? Or probably not. Molson Coors has to be in agreement to DQ that, right? Like, how does that work?
I know that they have a set term on the licensing.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I guess, if the brand is in decline and they don't really see a future for it, then I think that could be the end of it instead of one or the other,
And that's next year, right?
I don't know. I forget the timeline.
Yeah.
Well, whenever it is, I mean, it's way too early to even talk about that, I think, because those are still sizable brands.
Yeah, for sure.
You wouldn't want to cut. You wouldn't want to cut just so you wouldn't lose the shelf space. And my sense is that they'll keep trying new flavors and new iterations, and anything else that we're missing this week.
Just the cannabis rescheduling news.
Oh yeah. I don't think it does anything to affect beer demand at the moment. It will, but eventually. I think, yeah, we got to see how that plays out. If it really changes how cannabis is sold to the state level, and I'm not sure that it does at the moment. The reason I'm dressed like a cowboy is because I need to go. I need to go meet with George at the ranch, and I was either going to do it this afternoon or tomorrow morning before Co-Mill. So if I don't do it this afternoon, whatever, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Right. I am already dressed like a cowboy, so
you should
probably just go do it.
You're halfway there.
I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeehaw, Biscuit. Let's go chase some critters. You want to go get a rabbit? Go get a rabbit?
Oh, I think she moved. She moved a little
well,
bit.
Yeah, I said rabbit. When you say rabbit, dogs get excited. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, y'all have a good one, and we'll check in with you next week.
All right.
Peace.